As Olivia, my colleague, said, we are recording this session, so just to let you know right from the outset, and you should all be on mute. If for some reason you become off mute, then please put yourself back on. So first of all, I'd like to warmly welcome you to our CIPD Scotland student induction. And I'm really delighted that so many of you can join us this afternoon, especially when I guess quite a few of you will be distracted with what's happening over the Atlantic. So even more of a thank you. Maybe we're just a pleasant distraction for all of you to keep you away from CNN or Sky News. So anyway, I'm delighted that you could join us today. My name is Lee Panglia and I'm the head of CIPD for Scotland and Northern Ireland. And I have with me today Gary Dixon, who is the co-chair of the Mid-Scotland branch. And you'll see him on the screen, I think, or many of you. And he also works in the HR function at RBS, so sorry, at the NatWest Group. Sorry, Gary. So he'll be able to share a little bit more about that later. So, and I have the pleasure of leading a small team based in Edinburgh, working across Scotland and Northern Ireland. And I work with a great network of volunteers across Scotland, all HR professionals, Gary being one of them. And I'm sure that Gary will tell you a little bit more later about the great CPD opportunities that our volunteers support us with across Scotland. So if we look at what we have in store for you today, our agenda is varied. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about who we are as an organisation, just for those of you that might not be as familiar with us as others around who CIPD is. And then I'm going to hand over to Gary, who's going to tell you more around the value of membership. And I mean, as a leading the CIPD team in Scotland, I'm clearly going to tell you there's lots of benefits to being a member, but I think actually hearing it from a real HR professional who leads the local one of the local networks, but also has a career himself in HR and been a member for a long time, it will mean a lot more to you, and it will bring a little bit more to life. Then we're going to tell you a little bit about CIPD in Scotland. And Gary will then talk to you about the local branch networks and how the volunteers can support you in your studies and then as your career progresses. What would be good is if you can use the chat function at this point just to introduce yourselves and where you're from, because we have members, I believe, students from all over Scotland, but also I suspect we might have some of you from a wee bit further afield. And we will try and make this session as relevant to all of you as possible. We'll try and leave some questions at the end, but if you just want to post any observations and questions as you go through, that would be great. And that's nice. The first one is Andy from Kirkcaldy, and actually, Gary, are you in Kirkcaldy right now?
I am.
And I'm from Kirkcaldy, Andy, so what a lovely start to the session. So anyway, I digress. So Olivia, if you want to just go to the next slide, please. So what I'd just like to do is just give you a wee bit of an outline of who we are as CIPD. You can read the slides, but we're the partner and the voice of the people profession. We have over 150,000 members. It usually sits around 155, 156,000 members, depending on how many student members, to be honest, we have at the one time. And just about us as an organisation, we're a big SME. We are based in London, based in Wimbledon, with around 300 and odd employees. But as I mentioned earlier, we work with a huge network of associates of HR professionals and volunteers across the UK and beyond to support us to deliver our activities all over the place. You'll see that we, as well as having our offices in the UK, we have a presence in Ireland, the Middle East and Asia, and then across the UK, We have hubs in the north of England, in Wales, in Northern Ireland, and in Scotland. A big part of what we do to deliver our purpose of championing better work and working lives is helping HR and L&D professionals of the future through their qualifications and standards. And at any one time, we have around 24,000 people studying CIPD qualifications. And we have a team of colleagues in Wimbledon in our head office who are there to support you through this journey with any questions or queries or support you need, alongside the providers of your qualifications. Perhaps it's university or college that you're working with. So if we just tell you a little bit about what we do, and this is very quick because I know that we're going to go into this in a wee bit more detail throughout the session. So we support HR professionals and L&D professionals throughout their career. And we also work with organisations to build the best HR teams for that specific organisation or industry sector or geography, depending on where they're based. We set the professional standards, as I think I said when I was talking about in the last slide. As the professional body for HR and the professional body for experts in the people of work, we've been setting those professional standards for over 100 years now. And we're the only organisation in the world that can award chartered status to HR and L&D professionals. And that might not mean an awful lot to you now at this stage of your studies or of your career, but actually, as Gary will tell you a little bit around the professionalism of HR and I guess the credibility that this brings in the world of work, that will become increasingly important to you as your career progresses. And as I said in the last thing, we're looking at influence, policy and practice. So as an organisation, we develop a lot of insight, evidence that's focused on the profession in the world of work. And you'll see that throughout your studies, and you'll see that throughout the session today around some of the resources that are available to you. And then just onto the next slide, what I wanted to do, because many of our students are international, they come from different parts of the world, and many of our members have an international career or develop an international career. So what I just wanted to do is highlight at this early stage of your relationship with us as a professional body that we do have an international presence and that we have offices in Singapore and Dubai. So for many of you listening today or engaging with us throughout your studies, that will be really important to you, particularly as your career progresses. And then finally, what I just wanted to do was, sorry, our slides are going a bit wonky there. If we just look at the grades of professional membership, thank you, Olivia. So this slide looks at the different membership levels and where you sit as a CIPD student. So during your studies, you are a student member. And then when you complete your studies, you become an associate member. Now, we often, when we do these discussions, we get asked lots of questions about the different membership levels and how you can progress through the membership levels. So I just wanted to highlight the different levels at this stage. Hello, Martin, thank you for joining us. So you are currently a student member. When you finish your studies, everyone starts as an associate member with us. And that's when you can use the letters associate, ASOS, CIPD after it. And then if you don't join as a member, you won't be able to continue to use those letters after your name. And as your career progresses, you can move up the different levels of membership. So I don't want to say too much about that at the moment because I want to pass over to Gary, but I just wanted to point out the different levels at the moment and what you may be doing in your career at the point of being a different level of membership. So anyway, I'm going to pass over to Gary now, who's going to bring this a little bit more to life. Thank you.
Yep, and Lee, when you said we've been setting the standards for 100 years, you must have been talking about you and not me. Then I just wanted to say as well, good luck to everybody, because you're about to embark on a journey in a career in HR, hopefully, or L&D or OD or whatever, as a people professional. And getting the qualifications bit was, for me, I did it early in my career, 25, 26 years ago. And it's one of the most exciting bits, because you're just like a sponge, soaking everything up, learning new stuff. Whether you get the level 3, level 5, level 7 qualification, whether you get L&D or the HR one, it's a massive achievement, and you'll feel really, really proud when you get it. And when you get those letters, this ASOC, CIPD after your name, make sure you update your LinkedIn profile, put it on your signature strip on your work emails and stuff like that, and be really proud of what you've achieved by getting a CIPD qualification as well. I want to talk a wee bit about membership benefits, and we've got a slide there that really says you're maybe having to pay your student fees at the moment, and then as you continue into associate membership, those fees will go up a little bit there. But if you're an associate member, it basically boils down to a cup of coffee a week. Is what your membership costs you. Now, if you don't drink coffee, substitute it for tea or any other drink of around, what did I say there, £2.95 a week. So that's what it costs you for your CIPD membership, and hopefully we'll just start to kind of prick that curiosity with you as to what value do you get from that. If you're not getting £2.95 value a week from your CIPD membership, then you must be doing something wrong. So that's my challenge to you. It's about choices. Could you sacrifice a coffee? And we deliberately picked the Cafe Nero one there because as part of your CIPD membership, you get a free Perk Box account. So as part of that, I don't know if you all knew that, but you can sign up to Perk Box through your CIPD membership. And part of Perk Box is you get a free cup of coffee, any size, any coffee from Cafe Nero a month. So literally, it's not even a cup of coffee every week, because with your free one, it's only 3 times a month as well. So could we jump on to the next slide, Olivia, please? This slide is talking about some of the reasons why. So Lee touched on some of that, and Anne mentioned it there about having that that pride in being an associate member or a student member, and then as you progress through the membership levels, that kind of recognition for how you're growing your career. Not everybody can progress through the levels. It is related to the job that you're doing, and when Lee talked about the different levels there's quite strict criteria in order to get through. And I'm old enough to remember when we weren't chartered, we were the Institute of Personnel and Development. Martin Dowling, who's on, he'll probably even remember when it was before that, before it merged, then Martin as well. And getting that chartered status was really big for the profession, because at that point it was all about trying to get a seat at the top table in organisations where the head of finance was a chartered accountant. You'd have chartered marketeers and things like that as well. So for HR to have that chartered seat at the table became really important as well. You'll see it kind of goes in and out of fashion a little bit, but a lot of jobs will advertise, particularly at a more senior level, to have chartered member status of the CIPD as well. It's a measure of quality. It's a measure that somebody has achieved a level of professional credibility and recognition that's really important, and therefore gives you that kind of competitive edge in the job market as well. Access to resources, and the stuff that the CIPD's done in the last 6 to 7 months has just exponentially exploded. It really has, in terms of those resources that you've got available. Some of them will be even more useful and helpful to you just now as a student, but then as you continue your career into HR, they'll become even more helpful as you're dropping them into reports and papers for boards and stuff like that as well. Sharing knowledge. One of the things that being a CIPD member is all about is the continuous professional development. So we all commit to that. So that's when I say, when you get your qualification, never stop learning. 31, 32 years I've been working now, and I've never stopped learning. Every day I learn at least half a dozen new things that day that have just kind of grown and shaped me a bit as well. And part of that continuous professional development CPD cycle is is the sharing of your knowledge. You know, if you learn something new and master it, you share it with other people. And what you'll find in the CIPD is a whole bunch of totally amazing people professionals that want to share knowledge and help each other. So I don't know if you've had a look at the communities app that you can download and put on your phone, but if you want to get a real eye opener as to what a real job in HR, what's the kind of issues that people are wrestling with day in, day out, go and have a look at the stuff that's posted in these communities, because it is all the stuff that HR professionals, usually in smaller organizations, are looking for a bit of kind of peer support to help answer questions, and some of the stuff that's in there will just kind of grow your knowledge exponentially as well. So it's supporting you during your studies, supporting you in the workplace, and then supporting you throughout your career. Absolutely true. Anybody who's familiar with the new profession map knows that the whole point of the CIPD is to champion better work and better working lives at an organisational level, but it's also about helping you as a people professional be the best you can be, and to reach your potential and have the biggest impact that you can be. And that's part of that journey, career journey then with the CIPD. Thanks, Olivia. Next slide, please. There is the CIPD Student Hub, which is specifically for students, as the title suggests, and I guess that will be pretty helpful to you guys as you embark on your journey. I know I've just supported one of the guys on my team who was doing his level 7 qualification, and I loved every minute of it when he was talking to me about the essays and reading over what he was doing, because it is a kind of mindset that you need to get into. There's certain books and certain texts and references that you've got to be able to quote and to do, but you've also got to kind of layer on that some organizational experience as well. So that hub is going to be super helpful for doing all of that. Olivia, I think we've got a video coming up. Is that so there's a video here that's going to, if Olivia's able to run it, is going to tell you a wee bit more about what's available on that hub. Oh, you able to do that, Olivia?
Sorry, it's not letting me play the video.
I can. If you stop sharing, I think I can maybe do it from. I can maybe do it from here. Would you believe? So from current slide, and then share screen. It's just a very short one from current slide.
As a CIPD member, you get free access to over 200 business and management publications and academic journals through EBSCO. Stay up to date and informed on the wider world of work and business with access to a wealth of popular general management magazines on areas including leadership, organisational change, strategy, operations, managing people, and more. All part of the CIPD membership and easily accessible in one place. With over 200 top journal and magazine titles to choose from, not to mention a large selection of popular titles in high-interest subject areas, you'll always have the bigger picture in mind. EBSCO also gives you the control to take your personal development and research to a whole new level. It's one of the most comprehensive databases of content available, and it lets you carry out your learning anytime, anywhere, whether you're on the phone, tablet, laptop, or PC, you choose. Looking for content from academic publishers, academic societies, or university presses? EBSCO has you covered, with a wealth of resources always at your fingertips. And with unlimited usage, you can search as many times as you want, ensuring that you can focus on maximising your research outcomes efficiently. Getting ahead in your studies or keeping informed and in touch with current and future HR and L&D thinking has never been easier.
Can everybody hear me again? Olivia, I don't know if you can share your slides back again from now. What I was going to say about that EBSCO is it's totally amazing. Harvard Business Review is in there, and it's one of the best management thought leadership providers that you can get. Now, an annual subscription to Harvard Business Review is probably, because I used to pay it myself through work and then realised I can get it for free as part of my CIPD membership. It's about £250 a year. So, you know, factor that into account, that you get full access to the whole back catalogue that's there in a searchable format. And then there's the training journal and a whole bunch of other stuff. It's important to you just now as your studies to kind of know, and those that are doing it at universities and colleges might have some stuff that's available through your colleges as well, but this will travel with you for your professional career. And the reason why that's important is, as people professionals with the CIPD, we've got 3 professional values about being principles-led, evidence-based and outcomes-driven. And in that evidence-based bit, that's looking at things like the external data, so the Harvard Business Reviews, the academic articles that were mentioned in there that are well researched. They're the kind of things that you would use alongside your internal data, professional judgment, and the appetite of the organisation to arrive at a decision on an HR or an L&D intervention. So it just becomes really, really vitally crucial and important. And if you don't have, you know, as well as having all the access to the CIPD stuff, which to be fair is pretty comprehensive and pretty good anyway, but much more accessible to you in a work way, whereas this stuff's a bit more academic, but again, it's really important that you get the blend of the two. Thanks for that, Olivia. Could you jump on to the next slide?
Gary, just before I move on, there's a few people in the chat saying you've gone a bit quiet. Can still hear you, but it's a bit quieter, so I'll move on.
Okay, look, I'll try and talk a little bit louder then as well. In terms of learning content that we've got on the CIPD website as well, we've got lots of great content that you can tailor around what it is you're looking for, but a lot of that's kind of knowledge based. One of the things that we've released, CIPD's released this year, is these 8 online learning modules around behaviours. So in the new profession map, there's the core knowledge, core behaviours, and then specialist knowledge. But under these 8 core behaviours, so these are the behaviours that each HR or each people professional have to kind of master and do, and it's all mapped out against student, associate, chartered member, chartered fellow as well. So those 8 modules are available to you as part of your CIPD membership. The profession map's available to anybody, whether they're a member or not, but the behaviour stuff, and it's great, it's all, you get a workbook and then you work your way through it. There's reflective practice, which is a key bit of that CPD cycle that I talked about as well, that you do, and it's all about trying to give you the kind of confidence to do things like ethical practice, courage and influence, valuing people, working inclusively, which can be real tough things behaviourally. You can understand it, you can read it, but actually to have the confidence and the ability to behave in that way is really, really important as well. Next slide, Olivia, please. So the next slide is the CIPD started to set up a lot of these hub things, and the coronavirus hub that was set up this year has been totally and utterly amazing. I can't remember the views or the download stat, Lee, but I think it was something like 1 million. Oh no, there it is, 100,000 downloads. I think 1.2 million unique visitors to the hub as well. Because the quality of the resource and how helpful it was to people professionals in a thing that we'd never ever experienced before, a global pandemic that had hit the UK and every other country in the world as well. And it was a tough time for people professionals. No matter what job you were in, you were having to think differently, behave differently, and come up with different solutions to totally new problems. So the support and help that was available through the coronavirus hub to people professionals was just astounding, absolutely fantastic. And even if you're not involved in that now, going in and having a look around that stuff and just seeing how information's presented, what kind of context it's in, the different ways that they'll do podcasts or guides and fact sheets, and then some of the more interactive tools that you can take away and build yourself. Olivia, next slide, please. So in terms of supporting you with your studies, there's some important helplines there in terms of employment law, personal legal, and a whistleblower helpline. The employment law one will probably be more useful for you as you go through your career in HR, where depending on what level of membership, you can get 20 or 25 calls a year to the employment law helpline. So when you're completely stuck and you have nowhere else to turn with a kind of legal HR issue at work, you can contact the CIPD and get that support and advice there. There's employment law support, legal Q&A scenarios, case law, topic pages, all part of that, helping you with your studies bit. We, at a branch level, you'll see the photographs for that in a little while. We did and with Martin's help, set up a mock employment tribunal. So you probably hear a lot about employment tribunals as part of your studies. If you want to see what one's actually like, join the branch Facebook group and you'll see there's a recording of that there, and it kind of walks you through and steps you through what happens at an employment tribunal. We've got one on a disciplinary hearing as well, which is also worth a watch. Olivia, next slide, please. The wellbeing resources, again, was, I think, and believe CIPD responding to what was happening in the profession. So this is more centred around you as people. You know, HR has been working flat out to make sure the rest of the business and the rest of the organisation are running well, but we haven't spent a lot of time on ourselves. So a lot of this stuff in here is to help you personally. If you don't have what they call an employee assistance programme at work, so I'm lucky enough to have one at NatWest, that, you know, but this is a kind of similar thing for the profession. So there's loads of stuff in there that can help you and help you with your well-being as well. Well worth a look. Apparently it's National Stress Awareness Day today as well. So maybe if that encourages you to go and have a look at some of the things that's available there on stress and mental health as well, that would be good. Next slide, Olivia. In terms of supporting you with your studies and news and updates, this is a really valuable thing to do, is to register for a lot of the kind of mailing lists and stuff, and you can personalize it to what you want to be updated on. I just tick every box on it because it's all totally fascinating. So I think I get every email going from the CIPD on every topic. I don't read them all, but I can pick and choose the stuff that looks interesting to me. So I would encourage you to go in to your membership settings and register for some of the newsletters. The branches have got newsletters, CIPD Scotland's got newsletters, and you can register for them on the CIPD Scotland webpage, or the branch, each of the 4 branches in Scotland's got a webpage as well. And at the very bottom of that page is, you just type in your email address and you'll get sent it. Thanks, Olivia. Next slide, please. Supporting your studies, People Management magazine is still a fantastic read when you get it through. It drops through the door as well. It's got the latest news and jobs in there as well, and the work, which is for fellows, they get a magazine that's kind of pitched at a different level in terms of chartered fellow level, but they're 2 magazines that you would get in addition to the electronic newsletters that come from the CIPD. Next slide, Olivia, please. In terms of developing your career, there's a career hub in there. There's a CV building toolkit, assessments that you can do, e-learning resources that are available there. There's the careers pages, case studies, different HR specialisms, advice on managing career break and back to work support. That's other services that the CIPD offers. There's also the continuous professional development hub that's on there as well, that really looks at how you can grow yourself out with your studies and how you can start to focus on things like the profession map to help you do that. Next slide, please, Olivia. One of the things I find most valuable about CIPD membership is growing your network in terms of your online network. So you've got the communities forum that's in the CIPD. There's a CIPD LinkedIn group as well that's got, I think, about 80 or 90,000 people in it. It's massive. And then there's some branch online communities as well. So sorry, we have a CIPD, I think we have a CIPD Scotland one, Lee, do we? LinkedIn. And then we have branch LinkedIn pages and branch Facebook pages as well, and that gives you that kind of real sense of local community there then. And then obviously we've got the local branch networks as well, where you know, when we had face-to-face events, it was about a chance to network and meet new colleagues. There's, you know, I can't think, I've lost countless amounts of people that I've met at branch events that now consider to be kind of professional colleagues and associates, that if I needed a bit of advice on something, or a bit of information, or a bit of help, or a bit of support, I can go to these people. And that's all through that growing your network. You have to kind of work at that as well. It's, you know, you just can't expect to, you know, all these things to happen. You've got to put a bit of effort into growing your network. Saving your money, so as well as the free coffees, the cinema tickets when the cinemas open back up again, with your pet box, and your EBSCO saving you on the subscription to all these journals. It gives you discounts on all the CIPD conferences and exhibitions. HR Inform, which is a kind of online HR tool that helps you, if you're working in a small HR team, it gives you template letters for different bits of, and template policies if you need to create policies and things like that. You get money off your professional indemnity insurance. That's probably more appropriate if you're going to be a freelancer and work for yourself. You would need something like professional indemnity insurance. If you need to advertise on PM jobs, there's 50% discount there, 10% on the great range of CIPD courses that are available. And then actually took advantage of that this year and bought Perry Tims's new book using the 20% discount on Cogan Page as well, which was amazing. So there are some financial benefits there, other financial benefits there as well. There is a link there that if you follow it, it's like a highlights calendar for everything CIPD that's happening. There's also a page that shows you every single virtual event that the CIPD is running. So if there's nothing happening in your local branch on a particular topic that you want, chances are it's going to be run in one of the other 51 branches. So you can browse that easily. Lee, I think I'm handing back to you, am I?
Yes, you are. Thank you, Gary. I mean, Gary's given a great run through of all the different resources that are available to you in your studies and beyond. Obviously, we partner with our members throughout their entire career. And I guess for me, there's a piece around kind of taking some time just to explore, to wander through our resources, to wander through the portal, to kind of look at some of the communities and work out at this stage of your kind of connection with us, what you might be interested in. One of the good things, Gary talked about the coronavirus hub, and that's been a fabulous resource for our members at a time which truly has been unprecedented. And when the hub, so we're starting to see more of those hubs appear. So we have an anti-racist hub, and we also, which kind of came about as a result of Black Lives Matters, and we have a Brexit hub. So it pulls on resources from all over our site. But when you take a bit of time to go, there's a huge amount of knowledge and insight across our website. You could get lost in it. It's wonderful. But when we had something like coronavirus appear, we really worked hard to bring all those resources and insight together into the one place, just to make it easier for our members, because actually a lot of HR professionals might not have had hours, days, or whatever to kind of wander through our website. But at this stage of your studies, I would really recommend just taking a bit of time to see what is of interest to you and use to you at this point. And as Gary also said, take time to look at what your communication preferences would be. So which newsletters or updates you want to receive, and how often you want to receive those. And you can change those over time, but I would truly recommend you try and do that a wee bit, at the earliest stage of working with us. So what I just wanted to do was tell you a little bit about who we are in Scotland, and then I'm going to pass over to Gary again, who'll tell you a little bit more about the local networks that run. Now, I had a little look at where all of you, I'm delighted so many of you are from Scotland, because we've done, this is the third student induction we've done in Scotland, and we've had people join us from all over the place. So we've had to be quite careful about how we share knowledge on Scotland, because, you know, is it that relevant to you? But most of you, I'm delighted to say, are based in Scotland. And for those of you that are joining us from somewhere else in the UK or beyond, what we talk about here, whether it's how we operate in Scotland, or what Gary talks about our volunteering networks, it's just as, you know, try and take out the useful bits of information and kind of translate that into where you are in the world. Because we have a presence in Scotland, we have a presence in Northern Ireland and Wales and London and the north of England and beyond. But when we, for those of you that are based in Scotland, because which most of you are, we have 4 branches that we work across Scotland, which Gary will tell you a bit about in a minute. But at Scotland level, I guess our roles varied, and our ambition is big. We're a devolved nation. We have around 11,000 members, just short of 11,000 members in Scotland. And in addition to all the benefits of membership and resources that Gary's talked about, it's really essential that we look at how we connect and engage and support our members who are based in Scotland in the same way as we do in other parts of the UK too. So we're a nation in our own right, and we try and provide other benefits to our members in Scotland that are specific to your working experience in this country. And also, when we look at our policy and voice, there are many devolved matters that are only specifically to Scotland. So if we look at our voice on skills, for example, skills is devolved. So it's essential that we build our own evidence and insight on skills in Scotland, whether that's around the young person's agenda. So if we look at things like the Young Person Guarantee, that many of you will be aware of, or if we look at our approach to lifelong learning, for example, it's essential that we build our own evidence and our voice and position on things like that. We run a programme of events that are CPD events that are Scotland-wide, so they tend to be around specific areas of specialism or expertise, whether it's rewards or employee relations and industrial relations. So we work with individuals who work in usually more senior roles in those areas of expertise across Scotland, and that complements some of the activity that takes place at a local level, which Gary will talk to you about. We have a couple of big flagship conferences and events that take place. So we do a conference in usually Edinburgh. Next year it's going to be digital, which takes place in March. And we also have a student conference that usually takes place in Glasgow. Next year it will be digital, and it will be on the 20th of March. So that's a date for your diary. And that's where we will be bringing together students from across the UK together. So what else do we do? Gary's already, and I've talked to you a wee bit about communication. So we do a Scotland-wide newsletter, as well as the newsletters and communications you can get with through your local branch. Hopefully you'll see my photo or colleagues or appear in the media where we take positions on certain matters around HRM and people development. And we have very strong and engaging social media channels. So if you're able to connect with us on Twitter or LinkedIn or Facebook, both at a Scotland level, but also at a local branch level, it's a great way to connect and engage with us and find out what's going on and participate in some of the discussions and debates that take place. And we build partnerships with organisations. So we do a lot of work with Scottish Government, with some of the agencies like Skills Development Scotland, and we work with other trade bodies and other industry representative bodies. And then we work with large employers or medium-sized employers or small employers that, as I said at the beginning, that's looking at building great HR functions for that organisation. And then if we just go on to the next slide, which introduces the volunteer networks across Scotland. So we have 4 different volunteer networks, depending on where you are in the country. So we have the north, the west, so Glasgow and the surrounds, South East Scotland, and Gary, who's sitting in mid Scotland. So we have around 100 volunteers who work with us. It might be a wee bit more than that. I've never actually counted, Gary. I don't know if you have, but it's somewhere around 100 volunteers.
About 100, I think. Yep.
So who actively support us, who are all HR professionals working in different roles, different industry sectors, different fields, who support us through the geographically based volunteer networks. And I'm going to pass over to Gary now, who's going to tell you a little bit more about the volunteer networks. I guess concentrating on your own, Gary, Mid Scotland, which you lead, but what he talks about is just as relevant to how the volunteers support students and others throughout Scotland and beyond. Thank you.
Thanks, Lee. If we want to go to the next slide, I'm lucky enough to be the chair of what we call a branch committee. Local network sounds a much better term to use, Lee. And that's some of the mugshots. There's 3 or 4 new ones to go into there. We've just welcomed 3 new people onto the branch committee as well. And it's just fantastic to work with such a diverse, energized, motivated, enthusiastic bunch of people that are all committed to the people profession, to the CIPD, and to helping our local members with their continuous professional development. As well, as Lee says, 1,800 members. It says covering Fife, Forth Valley and Tayside. It's probably better to say Dundee, Kirkcaldy, Dunfermline, Stirling, Perth and Falkirk. That gives you a kind of better feel, I think, for the range of the spread. Unlike any of the other branches, we don't have a really big city, so we don't have an Edinburgh, Glasgow or an Aberdeen, and we've got a kind of more distributed and an area that's not kind of dominated by any one industry, although a lot of public sector workers in that very kind of, characterized by small, medium-sized enterprises and companies that work there. So I think the creating that sense of community across that kind of big geographical range is quite important. And we'd already moved to Zoom about a year before we were kind of using it as part of the pandemic. And that was a way of kind of connecting members across, a better way of connecting members across our geography as well. We go, as does every branch, with the mantra of members at the heart of everything we do. And as a result of that, we kind of aim to listen, connect and deliver. So we want to listen to what you guys want from us. So we do an annual survey in January, February that influences the branch delivery programme for the coming 12 months. We overlay with that the CIPD priorities that come out of Wimbledon, and then the stuff that Lee asked us to do as priorities for CIPD Scotland. So you get the best of everything coming towards you. So please do fill in that survey if you're one of our branch members, because it really does influence and shape what that programme of events is going to be like. We connect people with each other, we connect people with the CIPD, with CIPD in Scotland, and create this sense of community as well. And then we deliver some ace, top-notch, really energetic, fantastic CPD events. I might be overselling it slightly here, but you'll get a flavour of that with some of the slides that are coming up next. Olivia, if you want to move on, please. So this was a guy called David Beanie, who's a mental health guru that we had that offered to come up free and talk to us about his story with mental health. It's probably one of the most moving CPD events I've ever been at. A really personal story of David Beanies, who was the commercial director at Auto Trader at the time. He came out with and became public with his mental health issues and how he's now on a crusade to reduce the stigma. Or end the stigma, I think it is, sorry. That was just an amazing event in terms of the passion, the energy, and the stories that David shared with us that night about the importance of mental health and how, you know, what to do when you're recognising you don't have good mental health. Olivia, if you want to move on to the next slide. This was the Mock Employment Tribunal. You may recognise Mr. Martin Dowling in that photograph there as well. I think he was chair of the panel for that day. And Martin, I don't know if you want to just come in and say hi. If any of the students that are part of our branch have any queries, any questions at all, then if you want to connect with Martin direct, if you can, or through the branch at the email address, there's a contact form on the bottom of the CIPD Mid Scotland page, and then we'll connect you with Martin, who will work with the committee to sort out and help any kind of CIPD issue that you might have as well. Martin, are you there?
Yeah, just to say a few words of welcome myself and to amplify what Gary said about the wealth of resources available to students. As a former program director for a master's in HRM, I can vouch for the value of all the information you've got. And of course, like all information, you've got to be careful when you navigate it. You can easily get put off and go all over the place, but stay focused and it'll be a great help to your studies.
And Martin's going to be joining myself and two of our new student ambassadors, I think from Forth Valley and Fife College, Martin as well. So yep. We have student ambassador roles as part of the committee so that we get the views and ideas of students coming in. What you tend to find is that most of the people in the committee have been in HR or L&D for quite a while. So it's great to have some fresh ideas, fresh inputs, and obviously that student perspective. So Martin, I think we're still recruiting for student ambassadors for the other centres on the patch.
Yeah, Stirling, and Forth Valley, welcome to come along.
Which would be great. Anybody interested, then just drop us a line. Thanks, Martin. Look forward to later on as well. Olivia, could we have the next slide, please? Oh, just before we move on, can you nip back to the other one? That mock employment trip, but you know, just to, we try not to make our events stuffy, chalk and talk. Sorry, that one there, chalk and talk sessions. So this was an interactive session on a mock employment law. It was run by Lindsay's, one of the local employment law firms, with some actors that were acting out the various parts. We were all partners in the law firm, if I remember rightly. And at different stages, we stopped and asked the audience. So we had about 40 or 50 Aberdeen and St Andrews University students in the audience. But you can just see in the background there, I was actually just off the camera to the left, beaming that on Facebook Live. So at the same time as it was happening in the room, we were beaming it live on Facebook. We had about 30 to 40 people on Facebook watching it, and they fully interacted with the event as well. That's probably been one of the most exciting and kind of fully interactive events that we've run. But that's the kind of ideas and the kind of things that we like to do to kind of keep things energized. And right the way through to the end of that session, everybody was involved in how it was shaping up, what the decision was going to be and what the outcomes was going to be. Olivia, could we get the next slide, please? So this is the CPD clinic. We just ran one of them last week as virtual CPDs, and at that we talk about the importance of CPD, some top tips on how to make it easier for yourself. We talk about the branch mentoring program. So as you kind of get towards the end of completing your qualifications, and you're maybe looking to get either your first job in HR or the next level up job in HR, then coming and being part of the branch mentoring scheme is great. It's peer-to-peer, so we hook you up with another member of the branch who'll give you some great career advice on how to kind of land that next job. We've got a massive amount of success, and some of the mentoring relationships that we've built up over the last year and a half are still going strong. we also talk about CVs, how to build up your CV, and a bit about career management and advice. And we go into a bit more detail on membership upgrading as well. This was quite exciting because we did that last week as workshops. So basically we ran 4 15-minute workshops 4 times, and you could choose which ones you wanted to go to using the Zoom breakout rooms. We also did the virtual networking at the start because we recognise that people are missing out on that by just pitching up to the Zoom event. So we're trying to recreate that kind of face-to-face experience for people, and it was quite fun. It was quite exciting, and I know I met 3 new people that I've added to my LinkedIn network and connected with that I would never have done before. I think we're on the last slide, Olivia. Is that you, Lee?
Yes, it is. So thank you, Gary, for that. As I said at the beginning, I have the privilege of working with a vast network of volunteers across Scotland, and you can't underestimate the support and expertise that's available through these networks to you during your studies, but also as your career progresses. And I think if you take the time, as I said, to connect with your local branch and join some of the communities, then you'll learn a lot, you'll meet new folk, you'll network, and there's a lot of support available. Or the kind of best example I can see of how core the communities are is at the kind of earliest stages of COVID. So we talked about the great support that's available and resources available through the Coronavirus Hub. But for those of you that are in South East Scotland branch or Mid Scotland branch, there's a combined Facebook page. And I can still remember, looking at some of the posts and support and advice and sharing, and all these virtual cuddles that were kind of on that site just showed me the importance of those local communities and networks. And just if you've got any questions or queries or anything, either in your studies or if you're working and you post something onto that about people got any policies they can share or experiences, straight away you're getting advice and response and support from folk all over that part of Scotland. It's quite amazing.
I was going to say one more thing on the volunteering bit as well, just when you were talking there about, and we said the door's open, we're looking for student ambassadors to come and join our committee. I think every branch committee in Scotland has student ambassadors on them as well. So, if you're not part of the Mid Scotland branch, then I'm sure there'll be opportunities there with other branches. And then there's opportunities to become a volunteer with the CIPD. And there's a whole variety of ways you can do that. I've been involved with the branch now for about 10 or 11 years, I think, in total. I've now, as a result of growing my confidence, my skills and capabilities, I've now got 3 NED roles, 1 with Fife College and 2 with Kingdom Housing, that I know I wouldn't have had if I hadn't been involved with the branch as a volunteer and went through the ranks of vice chair and chair and things like that. It gives you those extra skills and those extra things that you maybe wouldn't get in your day job. So I think there's a huge amount, as well as, and hopefully this is coming across today, just the sheer pleasure that you get as a volunteer helping other professionals as well. So just wanted to say that, Lee, sorry.
No, thank you. I'm quite surprised that we've not interrupted each other more, actually, in the nearly an hour that we've been on this. So I guess before we go to any questions you may have, there were just a few things. So we've talked about a lot. We've covered a lot about the benefits and the solutions, a bit about CIPD, a bit about CIPD Scotland, a bit about the local network. So it's a lot to take in, I know, and it's a lot to take in at this early stage. But I guess if there was just a couple of kind of actions to take away from this today, they're on this slide. Well, first of all, actually, I should say that if you haven't joined already as a student member, I would strongly encourage you to do it at the earliest point you can. You are going to have to become a student member at some point, and the resources are great. So if you're going to, so sometimes people leave it to the last point possible, depending on where they're studying. To become a member, try and join, if you haven't already, do it now so that you've got the best use of the resources throughout your studies. So become a member, and then go to the preference centre, as Gary said, and I've mentioned too, and just, register for the updates in the newsletters and work out how you want to engage with us. And you can change that over time. But if you set that up now, that's a good idea. Look at the hub and look at the highlights page to see what's coming up, so you can kind of map ahead against your studies, looking at what events and networks and what research and insight is coming up. So kind of try and plan that into your studies. And then what it says on the screen here is that for those of you that are in Scotland, if you go to the CIPD Scotland page, there's a calendar of events that cover the entire Scotland. So it takes all the different local networks and also different Scotland-wide events and brings them to the one place. So you can kind of see what's going on across Scotland. And actually, as Gary said, there's another calendar that's available currently that actually covers the whole of the UK. Because with everything is digital at the moment until probably at least June, you've got the opportunity to connect into events all over the place that you might not have had before. Join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, both at a UK-wide level, Scotland-wide, and then at your local branch. And then join your local branch, as Gary's given great examples of why you should. So I don't know if we've got any. So what I've done is I've put useful contact details there, which is a Scotland one, but as Gary said, very much connect with your local branch too. I'm sorry, Gary, I didn't put the local branch website on there. So have we got, is there anyone with any specific questions that we haven't answered?
There's one. Hi, it's Olivia. There's one in the chat. I think it's oh, Gary's just answered it. I was going to say it's aimed at Gary about the workshops, but he's answered it as I started talking.
Sorry.
So we've got a minute left. So if you've got any other questions, please post now. But obviously we're around throughout your studies, easily contacted and approachable, as hopefully you'll have seen. No question is a silly question. And if nothing else, I would just like to thank you all for joining us, for listening to Gary and I for the past hour. Good luck to everybody in your studies. And I would also really like to thank Gary for taking the time to spend with us this afternoon on what I know has been a really busy day for him. So thank you to Gary for contributing, and thank you to all for listening. So we look forward to working with you.
Good luck.